Chinua Achebe's Refugee Mother and Child is a brief but powerful lyric poem that presents a deeply emotional scene. A mother caring for her dying child in a war-torn refugee camp. Achebe, writing during the Nigerian Civil War, uses this intimate and tender image to expose the inhumanity of war. The poem opens with a comparison to a Madonna and child, a common image in Western art symbolizing divine motherhood, typically showing the Virgin Mary with the infant Jesus. Achebe introduces this image only to immediately contrast it with the harsh reality of the refugee mother. No Madonna and child could touch that picture of a mother's tenderness. This line makes it clear that the spiritual and artistic representations of motherhood pale in comparison to the real, raw, and painful love of a mother in a refugee camp, tending to her dying child. The poem suggests that true sanctity and heroism lie not in idealized images, but in the silent strength of real women in moments of suffering. Achebe describes the refugee camp in grim terms. The air was heavy with odors of diarrhea, and unwashed children with washed-out ribs and dried-up bottoms are part of the scene. The setting is marked by disease, hunger, and death, where even basic hygiene is impossible. Yet in the middle of this horror, the mother's love shines. Unlike other mothers who have become numb, this woman still gently parts her son's hair, an act that seems almost ritualistic and sacred. Achebe emphasizes that she does this even though, soon she would have to forget the son she loved like the rest. The tragedy is not just in the boy's death, but in the inevitability that she will have to suppress her grief and move on, because that is what survival demands. The child, near death, is blown empty-bellied, his ribs sticking out, his body failing. Yet the mother continues to care for him tenderly. Her action of combing his hair, even when there is no hope, becomes a symbol of resistance, a refusal to let love and dignity be destroyed by war. Achebe ends the poem by stating, "She held a ghost smile between her teeth, and in her eyes, the ghost of a mother's pride." This image, a ghost smile and ghost pride, is chilling and beautiful. It shows that while the mother's world is full of death, her identity as a mother, and her love, endure as faint but powerful presences. They are ghosts, but they are real, and they represent the emotional and spiritual truths that war cannot fully erase. Themes and analysis. 1. The devastation of war. The most immediate theme of the poem is the human cost of war, especially on the most vulnerable. Set in a refugee camp, the poem makes no mention of soldiers, politics, or battles. Instead, Achebe focuses on the civilian casualties, particularly women and children, whose suffering often goes unnoticed in war narratives. The conditions described are harrowing: starvation, disease, and emotional exhaustion. Achebe uses imagery that appeals to the senses: odor of diarrhea, washed-out ribs, dried-up bottoms, to confront readers with the physical reality of suffering. The poem does not flinch from this ugliness but places the reader directly within it. 2. Maternal love and human dignity. The central figure of the mother symbolizes the endurance of love in the face of hopelessness. Her tenderness toward her dying child, combing his hair, holding a ghost smile, is an act of quiet defiance. It asserts that compassion and care are still possible, even in the most inhuman conditions. This theme contrasts sharply with the environment around her. While other mothers have become emotionally detached, this woman continues to express love. Her actions may not save her child, but they preserve his dignity and hers. Achebe elevates this small act to something almost sacred, suggesting that true heroism lies not in grand gestures but in the persistence of love in impossible times. 3. Contrast with idealized representations. Achebe's reference to the Madonna and child is not just literary, it is symbolic. In Western art and religion, this image represents purity, serenity, and divine love. Achebe subverts that ideal by suggesting that real motherhood, under the pressure of war, is more profound and sacred than any religious icon. This contrast forces readers to reconsider how we define beauty, holiness, and heroism. The refugee mother, surrounded by death, is more heroic than any painted Virgin Mary. Her reality is painful, but it is also more emotionally powerful and spiritually honest. 4. Loss, memory, and survival. There is an underlying sense of mourning in the poem, not just for the dying child, but for the mother's future, which will be marked by grief and forgetting. Achebe suggests that in order to survive, she will need to suppress her pain, to move on, like the rest. This speaks to the emotional cost of war, not just immediate death, but the long-term trauma and erasure of memory it demands. The ghost smile and ghost pride are echoes of what the mother once had, or still clings to. These spectral images convey a sense of emotional limbo, where love is still present, but muted, restrained by the need to endure. Poetic devices. Imagery. Achebe's use of vivid sensory details creates a haunting atmosphere. The smells, sights, and physical descriptions immerse the reader in the refugee camp's misery. Juxtaposition. By comparing the refugee mother to the Madonna, Achebe uses contrast to challenge romanticized notions of motherhood. Tone. The tone is gentle, mournful, and respectful. Achebe does not pity the mother, he honors her resilience. Symbolism. The act of parting the child's hair becomes a symbol of love, humanity, and resistance. Conclusion. Refugee Mother and Child is a masterful, compassionate poem that captures the emotional heart of war through a single, intimate moment. Achebe draws attention not to political leaders or battlefields, but to a mother's private sorrow and strength, showing that in the midst of horror, small acts of love remain powerful and meaningful.